Welcome to the Forest of Thoughts with me, Ingrid Rieser. For today's episode, I find myself in a place that has been very dear to me, namely among the hills and rivers of Devon in southern England. I spent a year here at Schumacher College in Darlington, just outside the town of Totnes. Today, I've made my way up the narrow lanes here to meet someone who has delved very deeply into a particular form of human expression, namely that of improvised song. How might singing be an unexpectedly powerful way to access our deeper selves? In what way is improvisation a path to connection with the aliveness of the world? And what is the true power of voice? Our guide for this episode is musician and teacher Briony Greenhill.
Improvisation is, in its most basic form, is singing without having a song, playing without having a composition. There's usually this kind of journey with it, whereas it starts messy and then it gets musical and then it gets deep. And so you step into this state of presence and listening and following and allowing whatever music wants to come and giving yourself to it.
Briony is an artist, teacher, and changemaker with a special focus on improvisation. She finds her music and lyrics through improvising, often together with others. As a teacher, she helps people bring out their full voice in work that is often transformative as well as healing. We met on an overcast but warm day in June of 2022, settling down on the grass just outside the gardens of Darlington Hall.
Should we say hello?
We can say hello, yeah. We can do. Hi, Briony.
Hi, Ingrid.
Nice to be here with you.
Nice to be here with you. And should we say hello also to the ground we're on, and with grass and the trees we're among, and the sun we're under, and the wind that's picked up to say hello with us too. And hello to the imaginary future people that we connect with via these microphones and wires and such.
I was wondering if we should start with, or if we could start with just singing and what singing has sort of meant for you in your life.
Yeah, I grew up singing very loudly. My favourite place was halfway up the stairs and in the garden, and what I know is that I made up songs like to my grandparents on the tape recorder, and just there was a good boy, he sat on a toy, hurt his bottom and the toy was broke, just making up any kind of songs for them. And I think now I look back on it, I realised I grew up improvising in a culture that didn't really. Like, for whatever reason, British East Anglian music culture of the 1980s didn't have improvisation in it, so this kind of free singing child, whatever I was doing, met the world, and they were like, oh great, you're musical, so here is instruments and here are dots and here are the things that dead white men composed a long time ago, and this is music. I was like, oh right. And so we sort of had that dance for about 25 years, until I went to India when I was 29 and found like other people improvising and calling it sacred and putting it at the middle of their classical music culture, which is how it works in India. It was like complete game changer. It was like I'd sort of just been a bit lost on some level, and to that moment it was like becoming found or something.
Yeah, well, I want to hear more about that. But could you say something about the work that you're doing now, so that people get a sense of that?
Yeah, I'm a teaching artist. I'm a vocal improviser, which means I improvise like whole songs with words and melody and rhythm, and if I'm playing with others, and with harmony. And I do that on my own. I do it with other people. I do it playing piano. I do it improvising on piano, and then I also record the improvisations and then like reproduce them as songs and add string arrangements and horn arrangements, and quite like my last gig we were 25 musicians, musicians and singers. It's like is a deep joy of mine to like gather people around music in the moment and be with our times together really through music. So that's me as an artist. And then as a teacher, I teach vocal improvisation. And it's an art form in its own right. And we're forming an international guild for the first time called The Well. Yeah, we're a number of vocal improvisation teachers from around the world. So practicing and sharing this art form, which I've been with for about 13 years. And then there's also an aspect to it which is kind of, I would say, voice midwifery. You know, because some people come to me and they're already professional singers, but other people come to me and they like, you know, they love singing at home, but they can't make a noise in front of others or whatever. So, or they know their voice is in there, but it's got quite stuffed down. So they need help just getting it out, even for their own ears, let alone sharing. And so this like job of outing the voice from its suppression, its oppression, its silencing. And then people, I mean, it's just so beautiful because it's like you've shared the most vulnerable thing about yourself and actually it's been met with love. And then in that context, then people seem to heal wounds or transform their relationships or transform their lives or something that we're still trying to understand really about the relationship with vocal improvisation and your access to your own authenticity, your ability to express that. This wonderful woman, Kimberly Hare, I worked with recently. She runs a program called The Edge, which is helping people deal with collapse, like ecological, societal collapse, coming in the future, potentially, possibly. And she said, yes, well, humans are basically diamonds covered in a ball of horse shit, painted with a thin layer of nail polish. I was like, that's the best model of human being I've heard, I think. And so I think what vocal improv does is it cracks the nail polish. People then find the horse shit, and then they go a funny colour, and they're like, oh no, I'm in this group with these people. And
I'm actually made of horse shit.
I feel awful, but I don't want to tell anybody because I'm so ashamed. You know, that happens for like a day and a half or something. It's really painful. And gradually people start to break, I'm actually horseshit, you know, in these ways. And people go, oh God, thank you so much, I'm actually horseshit too. So then everybody fesses up their horseshit by speaking or singing or expressing it somehow. And then once, you know, the horseshit has some expression, it gets sung, it gets... Things move, you know. Sometimes I think things are just stuck. So if you can dance them, if you can sing them, then your relationship with them changes somehow. Things integrate differently, reintegrate. I don't know exactly, but somehow via that method we seem to get to the diamond in everyone, and then the diamonds are singing, and then it's just like, give me sunglasses. I can't take this beauty, this light of the diamond in each person. Showing up, relating to one another from that place, singing from that place. It's pretty exquisite.
What do you think it is about voice that is so powerful? I mean, I think it made me think of how, of course, it's the physical sort of reverberations of song, of voice in oneself, and so of course it is very bodily in a way that maybe playing instruments is not. And so there's maybe it may like unlock something there.
Voice and the improvised voice, and particularly improvising lyrics, improvising songs, improvising meaning, and going into the sort of poetic aspect of the self in a freestyle way, in a way that's faster than you can edit. So I think there's a lot of layers of it. You know, I think if you look at embryology and how we develop as fetuses, there's this time at which we're just like 3 layers of stuff at the beginning, and the middle layer is called the mesoderm, and it becomes the face, the vocal cords, the heart, the genitals, and the arms and the hands. And so this kind of center line and this horizontal line, sorry listeners, you can't see, I'm sort of moving my body to try and feel into my mesoderm as it's becoming, but as the face and the heart emerge out of the mesodome. They do it in this twisty way. Twist, 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 twist. And in the middle of the twist, that kind of center of the figure of 8, are the vocal folds. And so this organ of the heart and this, I don't know, organ of the face, you want to call it an organ of relating? A relationship organ in the face. And the voice, there's a coherence always between them all. You know, like right now, I'm fairly regulated, I'm fairly comfortable in your presence. And everyone can probably hear that in my voice. I'm relaxed, I'm not too excited, I'm not too stressed, I'm not angry. Sort of with this question, what is the heart? I'm bringing a lot of awareness to my heart these past couple of years, since having a tantric partner who was like very aware of heart energy. And so we played with it, and it was just so powerful and so beautiful. So now I'm kind of living with more awareness of the heart. And when we talk about emotions, are we literally talking about something happening like here in the middle of our chest? Like, I don't know quite, on one level it's this organ that pumps blood, but it's not just that. I don't fully have an expert understanding, but emotion, truth, humanity, the kind of tender folds of depth within us. There's something about the voice that goes straight there, both when we sing and also when we hear others sing. Voice is just so touching, like potentially a bit unlike any other instrument. I think because it's coming from a human being. I think one of the journeys with working with voice in group is this journey home to our self-love, our self-acceptance. There's the steam train. I don't know if the microphone can hear it in the distance.
It's okay. It can be part of the conversation.
Yeah. This journey home to diversity and the welcome of everyone, There's this song like, all God's creators got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands or pause or anything they got now. Like this sense of like, if you're living, you're sacred and you're welcome, whether you're you or me or this daisy or this piece of grass. And it's not about who's more or less pretty or who's more or less clever or who is more or less white or more or less straight or more or less rich or whatever. It's this like flat circle rather than a top-down triangle, and everybody gradually coming home to self-acceptance, accepting the unique expression of my life via my voice.
I think. Could you say something more about improvisation as well? Because like we were chatting about it before the recording, that I think that when people think about improvised music, they think often about jazz, for example, which feels like it's quite different to the kind of improvisational work that you're doing. And as I understand it, when you're improvising, it's not that you really have decided anything beforehand. You don't have any sort of idea. You just arrive and see what comes up. Is that right?
Yeah. So improvisation is, in its most basic form, is singing without having a song, playing without having a composition. So you're not following something that you or someone else previously composed. You're finding the music of now, and there's usually this kind of journey with it, whereas it starts messy and then it gets musical and then it gets deep. And I had this amazing teacher called Rhiannon, who's still teaching. She's about 77 now. She lives in Hawaii. And for her, the void aspect was a spiritual practice, that you put your bags down, your bags of like, oh, now I'm going to do something jazzy, or now I'm going to do something about being in Dartington in the summer, or whatever your pre-ideas. It's like you surrender them. And so you step into this state of presence and listening and following and allowing whatever music wants to come, and giving yourself to it. Giving your voice, your lungs, your mouth muscles. Doing your best chance at putting words to the story that is arriving in the moment, to the images that are coming to show you what the story is. You just try and find the words, And it sort of feels as if the music is like coming from the air and relating with your humanness, and you're just doing the best you can to like give your humanness to it, you know, your body, your voice, your use of language, and your musicianship. My Indian improvisation teacher, he used to say, when we improvise, it's like the God train comes and rides through us. When we're practicing musicians, we're laying train tracks, we're kind of planing and sanding and soaring, we're doing this very repetitive, humble work. And it's like that when you're learning music theory, you know, it's very unglamorous. But it's also like a sanctuary for me personally, like just being with sound and the study of sound, the study of music. And so how improvisation can express, I would say, essentially comes down to like style clusters of rhythm, harmony and melody, and we call that genre. So what Indian classical music does with rhythm, harmony and melody makes it sound like Indian classical music, and what jazz does with rhythm, harmony and melody makes it sound like jazz. And I do draw some inspiration from jazz, but it also has certain, as far as I understand it has, for the most part, quite typical structures that help musicians to improvise together. When we're singers, we don't really need that. And then, ideally, it's kind of a state of shared consciousness. I would call it a shared spiritual practice where you're all going into that state of surrender and listening to, and following. And for all of you, then it starts off messy, and then it gets musical, and then it gets deep, and before you know it, you're singing prayers together or going on some big journey.
That was Stairwell New Definition by The Elements, a group that Briony is part of. It was entirely improvised and recorded in a stairwell at UC Berkeley.
But that's interesting that you say that it's a kind of spiritual practice to improvise. And that I think I heard you speak somewhere else about how, we all have ways of sort of grounding ourselves or connecting. Maybe if we're feeling a bit ungrounded or disconnected from ourselves, I think a lot of people have their strategies for getting back in touch. It can be, making a meal mindfully, going for a walk, or etc. And but it seems like working with voice and working with improvisation is also a way to do that. If one can be perhaps more fearless than maybe most of us are with our voice, or more safe rather, not fearless necessarily, but more safe with our voice than many of us are, perhaps.
And I mean, it's not just self-connection and grounding. There is all those things. It's like Well, for example, I was speaking yesterday to my assistant who has been going in and out of cancer. She's currently out of cancer, which is great. And she was with her Macmillan psychologist. Macmillan, I think, is a British cancer charity. So they provide her with a psychologist to help her navigate this. And he said, well, thank God you're a singer. He said, we know it's just like the most helpful thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's like, everyone with cancer should be singing 3 times a day. He's like, if you only just hum. Like, he's like, there's almost nothing better for tumours than for the person with the tumour to sing and send those vibrations to the cells.
It's incredible.
And yeah, so people have pointed me to books about this and people who have, you know, spent years collating the evidence and such. And I think NASA's doing some work on it. And because there's evidence of tumours not just stabilising but completely disappearing through the use of sound with them. And when I was on Kim Hare's retreat, getting the group to sing, I had an unusually mixed level group because now I'm a bit of a specialist, and so most people who come to me are like, you know, already at least sort of somewhat keen choir singers or something, you know, they have a bit. So this was like just really like, from a singing point of view, it was a cross section of the population, and I sent people out to have some nature connection time with their voice, and they came back and so many of them just said it was so painful to hear their own voices in the kind of nakedness of being outdoors. They weren't singing along with anything or anyone, and all they could hear was their own voice, and it was so painful. I just think our voices are part of our natures, and we live in a somewhat denatured way, and part of that is the silencing of the voice. And the voice is like any human capacity. If it's not used, it withers a bit. And so then we try to sing in midlife or whenever, and it's like trying to fly. It's like you've been a caged bird your whole life, so then you try and use your wings. And some part of you knows they should be magnificent. They should be able to carry you into the sky and you can have a good old soar, you know, and it's one of the thrills of existing. You know, we can't fly, but we can sing. And and so they try in these wings a week, and it sounds crappy, and the crappy sound is like a reflection of our denaturedness, and it's really painful. And so for a lot of people, and I feel so tenderly about this, it's more than fear. It's not just fear, it's that whole story that's then quite painful to face on your own. And so I think that's why people, you know, then seek out groups and classes and teachers, because having a Buddha, a Dharma, a Sangha, having support can then help with that, and that process of reinvigorating broken wings.
And you think, and you feel that voice as a way of doing that, of working with self-acceptance or getting to the diamond. Do you feel that that's open to everyone, even people who feel like they can not sing and have a terrible voice?
So I've been teaching online for 2 years through the pandemic, and I had someone come to me and say, and he was a little bit famous, and he said, you know, Briony, will you help with my voice? I said, yes, you know, here are all my courses. He said, no, I can't join a course. I'll just, if I sing, I'll just cry, you know, I'll just point the screen at the wall and lie down on my bed and cry. And I said, let's call him James. I don't want to reveal it. I said, James, I will create a course for you. But I was like, I teach socially. I teach in a group. It's an important part of how I work. So I created this course called The Tremblers. And The Tremblers was like, I'll probably just cry. I'll probably just point the screen at the wall and lie down. You absolutely cannot hear me. I'm going to stay on mute the whole time, you know. And like all these people signed up. And initially they were the most intimidating group because they were kind of the coolest, you know.
Oh, right.
They were like all quite edgy and sharp and young and good looking, and they were like, will not sing. And we worked together for months online, and finally, gradually, you know, they stopped hiding from the screen and gradually they came off mute. And by the end of the course, we heard all their diamonds, and they were so beautiful. They were so beautiful. There's this, I wish I could quote it, there's this wonderful Khalil Gibran poem where there's two oysters together, and one oyster says, I'm in lots of pain, and the other oyster says, I'm whole and happy, and da-da-da-da. And then a crab walks past. It's like, yeah, but the one in pain is carrying a pearl of exceptional beauty. And I'm like, to the tremblers, I was like, no wonder you're tremblers who've gone silent, because your voices are pearls of such tremendous beauty in a world that doesn't always know how to be careful with pearls. So they've gone buried. And I suppose what I don't know is like, because the thing is, those people still decided to come on a singing course, you know. Yeah. So everyone I work with is self-selecting to like spend time and money to come on a singing course. So then other people, I don't know, but I know that, you know, we are a singing species. We are like these living instruments. And it didn't have to be this way when you put together what it takes for us to sing. You know, our auditory cortex, the shape of our mouths, our vocal folds, you can do, you know, you can do all that. These lungs, the diaphragms, the resonance of our bones, are that there is music in the universe, and that we can produce it and hear it with our bodies. It's like, it didn't need to be that way. So my hunch is that we're a singing species, and my hunch is that, you know, in cultures where people don't get silenced, then singing is just a part of how you roll in life.
Yeah. I've also heard you talk about sort of the erotic and the sort of aliveness and the desire that exists in everything and in nature. Could you say something about that?
I think one of the things we have going on in our humanity is different senses of self. And for some people, like, the self ends here at the end of the skin. And for other people, the sense of self is somewhat expanded into like a bigger we that has, you know, the trees and the earth and our human kin and our more than human kin in it. And so then I think our notion of eros, I personally think it's kind of a limitation that we've reduced that just to mean human sexuality. Because I think that human sexuality is part of a bigger nature. This kind of motion that moves in me as a living thing, it can express in dancing, it can express in singing, it can express in playing piano, it can express in touch, it can express in probably in thinking, in conversation. It can express sexually. And definitely, like, the sexual expression, like, there is also sexual turn on. But I sort of think the arrival of turn on and the arrival of music, they're quite similar. Like, there's this warm-up process into them equally. You know, with music, like, it starts messy and then it gets musical and it gets deep. You might say with sexuality, it starts light, then it gets turned on, then it gets deep, or whatever. There's this warm-up process, there's this turn-on process, there's this journey of entry into a state that is categorically different from a normal state. I suppose the way I view sexuality in my body, and the way I would quite like everyone to view it, is as this quite fabulous expression of nature and naturalness. And, you know, I have this silly language for my spirituality. I call it monkey, minky, slinky. But I needed some language for like a holy trinity that wasn't human-centric or man-centric or in foreign words. And so if monkey is like essence, consciousness, non-material aliveness, kind of potency before and within and after everything, essence. If minky is like you and me and the trees and the river and the stuff, essence in matter, minky. And then if slinky is the energies that run through the wind, the music, the arousal, then as a vocal improviser, I'm a minky saying, hey monkey, will you send some slinky? I'd like to sing. You know? And as a lover, I'm with my beloved and we're making out and we're courting the slinky of arousal to move with us, through us, between us, around us, to do things to us. And there's a kind of a surrender and allowing of the eros to have its way with us. And I suppose coming from a Judeo-Christian paradigm, that's kind of sinful, and like Eve ate the apple and that was a bad thing, and sex gets called dirty, and you know, words for our genitalia are like swear words or curse words, or words for self-pleasure are like curse words. It can be seen as an act of dominance and like power over.
And also all of the toxic sort of versions of sexuality that are so pervasive in our society and culture.
Yeah. And so how about this? How about we're nature? Eros is this beautiful aspect of our nature, just like our singing. It moves us. It's fucking great. Bless it. Help the young mature into it healthily. Honor it in each other, particularly the people we're sleeping with or the person we're sleeping with. Definitely no violence in this realm unless you're kinky and that's what you all want to do. and sanctity and wholesomeness, and treat one another wholesomely, treat our own sexuality wholesomely, treat the earth wholesomely. And I think, you know, we need to be on a healing journey really around our shame about our bodies, about our genitalia, about how Eros expresses it. I pull these funny faces, I come too quickly, I don't know, like all the, you know, there's so much stuff that people actually experience in the realm of sexuality, and for the most part there's so much shame and privacy around that. A lot of it is very healable, but not if it's all in silence and shame and secrecy, or a notion of sin. Yeah.
Do you have any sort of stories of experiences where this kind of vocal collaborative improv has led to a kind of a much deeper connection to, was it Minky? No, it was Monkey? That the greater consciousness,
the primary essence,
the primary essence, or of Slinky moving through through Minky with others, perhaps, like that, because I imagine that doing that with others means it opens up for something that is different than if we're singing alone or exploring alone.
Yeah, I mean, I think every time.
Yeah.
I think that's what it does. Like, I had this guy on retreat recently called MC Zander, who's a PhD psychologist and deep in the realm of Buddhism, and also a professional musician. And he was on the retreat, he's like, this is a revolution. He's like, oh my God, I have to write about this. This is where immanence meets transcendence. This is where all the conflicting things come together. And I mean, I don't know. It's like, when I first started doing it, I did have a very tangible, clear experience of a big shift in consciousness, of dissolving into oneness, or feeling dissolved, what I named as feeling dissolved in God's heart. Now I've been doing it for so long, I can't tell if that stopped happening or it's just become so normal. It is just what vocal improvisation is. But there's definitely, I mean, the best way I would describe it is, you know, we arrive and we're kind of normal. Then we start going into this portal and it's a bit of a juddery transition. And then we're in, I don't know quite what the word is, heaven, Eden. It's where, and just to unpack these words a bit so that we're on the same page, transcendence, you know, divinity is elsewhere. It's in the nothingness. It's in the non-duality. It's in the place where I am the bird, or it's in some sky god, or Jesus Christ, or it's transcend. It's away from. It's above from. It's over there. It's not. And then immanence. It's here. It's in me. It's in you. And I suppose you could say immanence is the minky. And transcendence is the monkey, but it's like rhythm, harmony, melody. Put them together, it's music. It's like monkey, minky, slinky. Put it together, it's existence, and it's precious and it's sacred.
So
and
good.
I think, singing and improvising sort of leads us into a very directly felt experience of that.
There is a tender fire inside. There is a tender fire inside that wants to hide and be days to come out and sing like a bird. Dance every day like the wind on your face. Sing your song, give it away like a bird. Burn, if you will, till it's all gone. Be warm, be bright, be hot, be strong. Be strong like a bird. There's a tender fire inside. There's a tender fire inside. There's a little song that wants to sing like a bird. There's a tender fire inside.
That was a clip from Die Every Day, from Briony's album Crossing the Ocean.
I know that the sort of the decade before you went more full-time into vocal improv, then you were working more within the realm of politics, working for NGOs, those kinds of things. How has that sort of, because you were saying before that that's not a past life, you've sort of brought it with you into the things you're doing now, but could you say something about sort of the journey from that being your work into vocal improv being your work, and how it's informed that? Does that make sense as a question?
It does. There's just so many things I could say.
Okay.
There's this line in this book by, I think, Robert McFarland, called Mountains of the Mind. And he says, you know, when you're trained as a geologist, you look at a mountain range and you can almost see it rising and falling like waves of the ocean in geological time. And I think when you're trained as a political scientist, when you look at a nation or a system or a paradigm, you can almost see it rising and falling in like, I don't know, it's not geological time. What is it? It's like paradigmatic time or rise and fall of empires time. And so seeing this plasticity and having this language and these approaches to comprehending complex interrelated systems. And so not feeling afraid to think about them or talk about them or ask questions about them or hang out in the realm of them. And I think that's what, for me, that's what a poli-sci degree did. And, you know, before it, I started a degree in music, but it had, like, no spirituality and no improvisation, and it was all, like, and I just, I went a bit squiggly and left. And then studied politics and was, like, singing on the side, and then working in the realm of social change in my 20s and, like, singing on the side. And then singing was, like, once I found other people improvising, singing was like, oh, now I have to take over. So, you know, I think that was part of your question, like the disruption of that career shift.
Yeah, for sure.
Was dramatic. You know, I had a ritual in which I burnt my CV. It was like,
oh really?
Yeah, it was like this allowing one version of myself to die. There was a lot of grief and terror, and it was a very strong experience. But then life just sort of flowed that way, and suddenly, you know, I was sacked but given a £10,000 payoff, and then this person came and said, there's a fund that supports musicians in transition and they give it to 2 people a year, and I got it last year and you're going to get it this year and the deadline's next week and here's the email. I was like, ah! And I did it and I got it. And then my American boyfriend was like, please don't leave the country without marrying me. So I said, let me sleep on it, and woke up and said okay, and married him barefoot in the park 3 days later without my parents even knowing, you know. And then suddenly, before very long, was living in America with a new husband, with a green card on the way, with £20,000 in my bank account, with no more professional obligations in London, and signed up to this year-long course in vocal improvisation with Rhiannon. I mean, it was this like,
wow,
It was like that. It was like you sit on a slide and or you're just walking along the path of your life and then everything else closes down and there's this slide in front of you and it's covered in coconut oil and you sit down and whoosh, your life has changed. And it was terrifying, but it was obvious. And I'm in a similar process now around my personal and family life, and it's utterly not what I was planning, and it's terrifying, but it's also obvious. And I sometimes think that transformation has this quality, like it's terrifying, but it's like the brightest light in the sky, and it's all you can do to follow that. And if you're lucky, life will conspire to help. So now then the next 13 years really focused on music, but I will say that the political aspect of me has not stopped watching the world quite deeply. Still talking to my friends, still reading, still listening to a lot of podcasts, still paying a lot of attention, and wanting to create eco-villages, wanting to start new political parties, wanting to have an extra week every week. I think one of the tragedies of our times is that so many people are yearning for like eco-village. Pat McCabe talks about an author who talks about little lifeboats of coherence. In a paradigm that's crumbling, in a system that doesn't work for the present or the future, what are we to do? And it's like, if we're just normal people trying to make ends meet, trying to get through whatever our lives have in them, maybe raise children, most of us don't really have the capacity to like go ahead and make a new village, but so many of us want that. And it's like, what is it going to take? Like, do we need a government that sees this and is like, here is the new Eco-Village Commission, and it's going to work interdepartmentally, interagency to bring people together and like facilitate this? Or are we just going to keep having like Barratt homes and supermarkets and products flown in from everywhere and like just watch our world die as we carry on? It's, I think we are going to have to let the cars go at some point. We are going to have to let the oil go. And what are we going to be left with when we can't travel so much? Which is how people have been living for most of human history. Like, all this car travel, it's only about 100 years old. And even then, it was very, very exceptional 100 years ago. So what? So like 3 decades, something like that? And now we're like, what? Take my car away and I'm only going to see my neighbours all the time? So it's like, wow, we better have ways to bring out the diamond. And not just knock up against the horse shit in each other. It's going to be that's it. When you bring groups of people together, it can be so beautiful. We can create love fields between us, and you don't want to be anywhere else, and you don't want to leave, and you don't want to go. Or we can have a shit time. And I think a lot of people use this maxim like, hell is other people. Have you heard this? Hell is other people. And so we want to have our zones that we can retreat to. And of course we all need our autonomous zones. But when there are ways of community wisdom that can help a circle fall in love with each other and be in love together, then it's like, oh, well, now I want to be with you all. And now I don't want to go back to the car and the supermarket and normal life.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things we talked about before we started recording was that we're sort of the continuation or potential, hopefully at the end of a very long period of a lot of trauma, of ancestral trauma, where, everything from slavery, wars, oppression, a terrible amount of patriarchy. I guess the question is whether we manage to face that and heal enough to get to that place to get to the diamonds beyond the horseshit.
It takes about 4 days on a singing retreat.
Okay.
But yeah, there's this beautiful poem like 1,000 Years of Healing. And yeah, I think when the wounding is so ancient, is so long, some people trace it back 2,000 years, some people trace it back 5,000 years, some people 10,000 years, different people place the starting point in different places, but it's long. And I don't know, somebody said like modern life is 4 days deep. You know, like you go camping and after 4 days you're like, I don't want a normal shower again. I don't want to be under the stars. And I think, to speak very intimately, you know, I'm 43 and I think I'm in a mutually secure attachment love relationship. After, I don't know, almost 30 years of instability through me having attachment trauma. And, you know, you could say whatever about the men I've been with, but like when you have one or two traumatized people trying to love each other, there's a lot of bone against bone knocking up. But once both people have done a lot of healing work, which is the case for my partner and I, it's no longer bone against bone. It's now like squidgy warm bit against squidgy warm bit. And we're like, oh, that's nice. Carry on then. I suppose, so for me, 30 years of healing, or like in a very focused way, 10 years of healing. 10 years of avoidance, 10 years of struggle, 10 years of healing. And now I'm kind of here. Long may it last. Touch the earth, touch wood. And so 4 days, 10 years. I think maybe the point is that communities need to be on a conscious healing journey together, like not expect each other to start out perfect, but to say, yeah, man, we're from this really wounded culture. We carry that in our bodies and in our ways of being and relating to ourselves and each other. And how do we build communities of healing together? And there are ways and there are models and there's examples, people like Tamara or the Network for New Culture in America, or ISTA, or my work. So once you have communities of support for healing, then what other ways? Is it how we sing together? Is it how we dance together? Is it how we do ritual? Is it how we make love? Is it, you know, what other ways that we bring beauty into our into our cultural practices in ways that like deeply nourish everyone and bring out the diamond and help each other clean away the shit. Shit is compost. Shit is good.
Yeah, it's compost. What would you say to people who after this sort of feel inspired to sort of start exploring their voice more?
I'd say find a teacher you really like, or you know, there's lots of different people holding lots of different sort of singing experiences, from choir to kirtan to glee clubs to vocal improvisation. More than anything, I think just, you know, it's a bit like, oh, how shall I exercise? Who shall I be friends with? You know, what does a me like to do in this life? You know, just explore until you find your people, your style you like, your teacher you like, the thing that works for your schedule, the thing in a place that you like. I think liking is kind of the glue of good life, isn't it?
It is.
Find what you like and then do it, and then enjoy singing in the bathroom where it resonates nicely, and sing love songs to your own voice and welcome it out and welcome it home. I think the last thing I'll say is this was a game, because I used to really judge my voice. As soon as I would sing, I would start judging myself. And then I watched this film called Happy Thank You More Please, about a woman who has alopecia. She doesn't have any hair. And she's living in New York and she has a shit life and she thinks it's because she doesn't have any hair. And one day she says, oh, maybe it's because of my attitude. And she's like, I'm going to change my attitude. And I'm just going to say, happy thank you more please. I was like, that's what I'm going to do. Whenever I sing, all those voices that come up and tell me I'm sounding rubbish and making things bad for everyone, I'm just going to, instead of them, I'm just going to think, happy thank you more please. So I did. And whenever I would start to sing, but almost as I was taking my breath, I would just go, happy thank you more please. And then sing, and just as I was singing, say to myself, happy thank you more please. And you know what? Men with erection difficulties, that also works.
Oh, perfect.
If you have anxiety about it and you just say, happy thank you more please. Like whatever you are having anxiety with, just replacing your anxieties with the affirmation, happy thank you more please. And then you can keep singing, or you can keep being aroused, or you can keep whatever. And the anxieties can go away and it is liberating. Happy thank you more please.
Thank you so much, Briony. This was amazing.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much, Ingrid.
Thanks. Thank you, grass. Thank you, trees.
Thank you,
sky.
Thank you, place. Thank you, Dartington.
You'll find links to Briony's work and things we talked about in the show notes and on the website forestofthought.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting the podcast at patreon.com/forestofthought. A big thank you to Al, Afra, and Eska for having me, and to the River Dart, who is as special as I remember. And of course, thank you to the patrons who made this trip possible. We'll be lingering in Totnes a little longer, next time encountering our guest in a sun-drenched field on the outskirts of town. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.